Well, thank you very much, President Beebe, officially, or soon to be officially president. I like the appellation president. Tried for another presidency, and obviously it didn't work, or you've all been at the White House today for this occasion. But it is a great honor to be here on this occasion. And I've been asked this morning to make a few observations about the global imperative in this day and age on the occasion of the inauguration of Dr. Beebe. And we live in one of these eras which I think underscores as never before, and you certainly represent it here, and that is the true source of wealth, the true source of capital for an economy is not physical things, it is the metaphysical. It is the human mind, human imagination, inventiveness, a sense of innovation is what enables a people to move forward. And this era underscores it as never before. This era really got kicked off, this so-called information age, with the microchip. Now, in days of old, people thought wealth meant large tracts of land, piles of gold and jewelry, massive armies. But think of what this age is with the microchip. Microchip itself, what is it? Silicon, sand. There is no shortage of sand in this world. And you think of even natural resources as a source of wealth. We certainly seem to see that today with oil rising to ever higher prices. But that's a temporary phenomenon. And oil in and of itself, what is oil? It's in and of itself glop. I mean, you can't eat it. You can't drink it, you can't feed it to camels. What made oil the indispensable of the world today was human innovation, inventiveness. Think of it. Once upon a time, if oil was in the ground, it was a depressor of property values, made the animals sick. But it was human imagination, especially the decline of whaling oil, that turned this thing into something indispensable today. And you look around the world at people who move ahead. It's not so-called natural resources that do it. It's people who learn to use them. Take, for example, Hong Kong. Since 1997, Hong Kong's been officially part of China. But Hong Kong is still the most prosperous part of China. 60 years ago, Hong Kong was one of the poorest specks of real estate on earth. Talk about natural resources, it had to import even water from the mainland, didn't even have water. Yet in a period of a few decades, Hong Kong became one of the richest specks of real estate on earth with one of the highest per capita income. And how did they do it? By using and liberating the human mind imagination. Then you look around the world at countries that haven't moved ahead that seem richly endowed with natural resources. This may be politically incorrect to say, but you look at certain countries, take, for example, the country of Brazil, now starting to move ahead. But for years it was endowed with natural resources, but because they did not have the institutions that trained and liberated the human mind, Brazil lagged much of the rest of the world. The same is true of Argentina, richly endowed with resources, but did not have and liberate the human mind, did not have the institutions that did it. When you look around the world, there is no shortage of energies out there, of people desiring, scrambling to try to get ahead. And this is where Westmont comes in. And this is where the United States and others have come in. And that is recognizing that if you create the institutions that turn these energies into something you can build on, into a foundation, truly people can move ahead. Think about commerce, for example. In this country, and indeed many countries, there's a tendency to think you have business on one side, philanthropy on the other side, that you succeed in business, and that business is really what you might say a Faustian bargain, that it is based on greed, on appealing to the worst instincts in people, but hey, it leads to a higher standard of living, so you tolerate it, and then when you succeed in business, you atone for your sins by giving away your money. It is preferably to Westmont, and just think of the phrase, and I fall into this myself. giving back. Not giving, but giving back. Giving back sort of implies you took what really wasn't yours. Now you're not like a kid who took something, you give it back. But there is a moral foundation to commerce, and that is you succeed by meeting the needs and wants of other people. Even if you think you're in it for yourself, you don't succeed unless you meet the desires of your customers. You can have a terrible personality, be a real grouch, the kind of person who makes babies cry and dogs bark at you. If you're not producing a product or service that people want, you're not going to get ahead. And if you're not willing to take risks, you're not going to get ahead. Misers, people who simply clutch what they have in a selfish way, do not go out and found the Walmarts and the Microsofts and the Googles of the world. They just simply live a narrow and really constricted existence. And then you look at philanthropy. What makes for effective philanthropy? Again, it's meeting the needs and wants of other people. And that's why we have the seeming paradox of the United States. On the one hand, we're the most commercial nation ever invented, but on the other hand, we're also the most philanthropic nation ever invented. In terms of what people give, in resources and in time, voluntary time, unprecedented. And other countries are now starting to try to emulate that. And so in a sense, business and philanthropy aren't opposite ends. They're really two sides of the same coin. Now, perhaps the skill set to meet the needs and wants of other people in business is different from, say, doing it in philanthropy or in academia. But again, it's the same ultimate goal. And so sometimes you find people who succeed in business are also very successful in philanthropy, such as original John D. Rockefeller, supposedly a robber baron, but founded the University of Chicago and other extraordinary assets for the United States. So they are one and the same. And when you look at the world today, as the world opens up, we read about, hear about, as Dr. Beebe pointed out, globalization, Steve pointed out globalization. But globalization simply means we interact more with the rest of the world. Globalization's been going on, in essence, since we got out of the caves, learning to interact and having more and more webs of cooperation and interaction, liberating the mind for more and more people. Because if you liberate minds, all of us move ahead. Commerce should not be a zero-sum game. Somebody's gain is somebody else's loss. We all benefit from it. And think of it, what would happen to our standard of living if we put a wall around, say, Westmont, beautiful campus, but no matter how much money you printed, no matter what you did with taxes, the standard of living would fall if you were forced to rely on everything from your own resources. Globalization means we can cooperate and benefit mutually from that cooperation. And yes, there'll be competition, but competition also means the customer comes out ahead. We come out ultimately ahead. And that's the glory of globalization. Shrinking from it, we get what we had in the 1930s, the last time the globe went in on itself. And you get disasters and catastrophes. And this brings to the importance of what Westmont does and the moral foundations that it tries to create in all of its students. And that is, we think of economics as just material things. But if you don't have a moral foundation, if you don't have a strong sense of what is right and wrong, ultimately commerce comes to a halt, or at least progress comes to a halt. You need an environment where people can take risks, which means the rule of law. You need an environment where people have a sense of right and wrong, because if they don't, the system doesn't work. It's based on trust. You go to a restaurant, the restaurant trusts that you'll pay the bill at the end of the day, at the end of the meal. People assume when we turn on the light, the switch, the electricity comes on. So yes, it's Ronald Reagan said about the old Soviets, trust with verification, but it is based on ever and ever wider webs of trust. And you destroy that, you destroy the links we have with ourselves and with the rest of the world, all of us pay a fearful price for it.